Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we have with us today the heart of our area. Well, maybe not the heart, but at least the CEO of HART, Philip Hale. Philip, pleased to have you on the program. We're going to talk about the transit system.
Glad to be here.
How long have you now been in this job?
I started this job probably February of 2011 as the interim CEO. I became the permanent CEO in November of 11.
But you're not new to the Tampa area.
No, I was actually the chief of maintenance for HART. I came here in 2008.
I think that's really neat because, you know, if you know the maintenance that is required and the facility and know all the pieces that come through it, I think that puts you in a better position to lead it.
Well, evidently,
I guess the board must have thought so too.
I think that's what they decided, which is it's a plus for the board and it's a plus for HART.
How long have you been in the transit business?
I started 40 years ago.
40 years ago?
Yes. I started out as a bus mechanic at Dallas Transit System.
So you can actually fix them?
Yes, I can. Well,
or could at the time?
I could at the time. The technology's changed so greatly that I don't think I could probably fix them today. I have a good understanding of it, but I don't think I could do it anymore, quite honestly. It's kind of strange. Back in the day, you did an engine tune-up with a gap gauge, and it was mechanical. Now you just put a laptop on it. And it's totally different.
Whole different game. But most of your career was then in Texas?
Yes, I retired from the successor company of Dallas Transit, became Dallas Area Rapid Transit. And I retired from there in 2008 after 35 years.
And came up here and took on this job?
Yes.
Glutton for punishment?
That's what my wife says.
Well, what do you think of Tampa?
Actually, the weather and everything is pretty much what I was accustomed to because I actually grew up in South Texas. So the only difference is there's a little bit more palm trees.
A few more palm trees?
That's about it.
Let's talk about HART.
Okay.
How big is HART? What are we talking about when we put our arms around the Hillsborough Area Rapid Transit? How big is it?
Well, simply the fact that it's called HART, which is Hillsborough Area Regional Transit, means that we're responsible and we run the entire gambit of Hillsborough County. We have 750, give or take, employees. We have right at 200 buses, heavy-duty buses. We have 48 paratransit vans and flex service vans, and about 30, what the term is called non-revenue vehicles, support vehicles, et cetera. We run about 10 million miles per year.
10 million?
Yeah, and if you did an analysis of that, that's going back and forth to the moon 43 times.
Wow. Will you have Wi-Fi on that moon trip?
You might, I don't know. But
I'm amazed that you only have 750 employees. I would have thought there'd be many more for as much of the job you have to do.
We run pretty lean ship, so yeah. And quite honestly, almost of that 750, 680 are operators and maintenance employees. So the administrative staff's small, and we just work very efficiently.
What do you see are going to be the biggest changes coming down the line for you now? These different buses, maybe going to alternative fuels, electronic lines coming in. What do you see?
First of all, we're in the process of implementing our brand. It's called Metro Rapid, which is Bus Rapid Transit. We've been working on this project for about 3 years. And believe it or not, we're going to open up on June 10th of this year, which will run from Hidden River, which is hidden by 75 and Fowler. It will run down Fowler, make a left on Nebraska, go all the way down to the Marion Transit Center, then going down the Marion Transit Way, then loop back. It's about 17.5 miles. We'll have stops about every 3/4 of a mile. The service will run...
So not every block, that's why it's going to be
correct.
A rapid.
That's correct. Okay. Also, we have technology. We have, it's called ITS, which is Intelligent Transportation System. We have on the bus a system which will allow us to either hold the light for a few seconds or click the light so we can get across the intersection quicker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like that for the bus driver.
It's called traffic signal priority.
Okay.
By the way, it's in conjunction with the fire department and the police department. The difference between our system and the fire department is, of course, when they go through, it changes immediately and it'll hold until they
Automatically.
go through. Yes.
Yeah. Your driver has to institute it.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize buses did that, but I kind of like the idea.
The interesting thing is that this will be the first BRT in the state of Florida, and we're pretty excited about it. We anticipate just the remainder of this year that we'll probably have about 80,000 trips. It's and this is a new. This is actually the first new service that Hillsboro's had, new type of service, since HART came into existence.
Speaking of technology, turning lights on and off, what about Wi-Fi on the buses? A lot of my younger friends, and including myself, because I never go anywhere without my smartphone, and having time on the bus to be able to do it would be a lot better than driving, and I won't use my phone in the car. Somebody calls me, I have my wife answer it, or it just goes to message.
We're reviewing a possibility of installing Wi-Fi on the Metro Rapid buses. And if we probably make that decision to see if it's feasible within the next 3 to 6 months. Also, along with another project that we're working on is we're in coordination with Pasco County, Pinellas County, and even Polk and Manatee. What we're doing there is we're working with the Florida Department of Transportation and to develop a pilot project for a new fare collection system. We will install, if this comes to pass, which we're pretty confident it will, we'll install the new fare boxes basically onto the Metro Rapid buses, and they will be able to accept credit cards and day passes, etc. But the real plus is that it'll be one fare media for all these counties. So if you can buy a fare media in Polk, and you can use that same fare card to go all the way wherever you want to go within about a 5-county area.
Any thought of being able to take that, and that's a great idea, but is there any thought of taking that and kind of bringing it into the SunPass operation where I already have a SunPass account?
We're reviewing that option.
Because that'd be kind of neat if you had a little card that was like the SunPass, so you could just wave by the whatever the meter is.
Mm-hmm. The intent there is that the pilot is to determine if it is available to do it, if the technology is there. And the technology is there, we just want to make sure it's fully operational. And we've already interacted some with Toll Road Authority, and they're interested in it.
I would think it'd make a lot of sense. And going back to the Wi-Fi, being able to have your buses and communications with some kind of Wi-Fi center would be kind of nice.
You're correct.
Is there any, what are the drawbacks from your standpoint? I imagine cost is a problem.
Yes.
To put Wi-Fi on a bus, but what's involved? Can you give me an idea?
We would have to put basically a specific component on the bus, and then it would have to, there's several ways of doing it, but the one that we it'd be the same as having an air card that you put on your laptop or your smartphone.
Oh, okay.
And that costs, so we're trying to determine if it's cost effective to do it and how much use it would be. That's the reason we would move forward and say, okay, we're using the Metro Rapid as all types of new technology to improve communication with the passenger, trying to communicate when their next bus is going to be there. We have another one called Next Stop that we're working on that you can identify from your smartphone, that you can go in and it'll tell you specifically my bus is going to be at this particular location, we'll say within 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever the case may be. So it's all interconnected. Moving us forward, though, is we have to make certain that all this technology is interfaced properly.
Oh, yes.
And that's what we're working on now. It's a major project that we're going through. We don't want to just say put this on, put this on. We want to make sure it all works together well.
What's the demographic of the rider that you see getting on this new rapid bus?
The demographic's going to be very basic. It's going to be some of the term is used is the current bus rider will use probably about 35–40% what that rides today. And where we're putting the system in is the expectation is if you're coming from, say, New Tampa or someplace like that, that you will move in and park at Hidden River and then take it on in. That way you won't have to pay for parking. And by the way, the parking at the Park and Ride is free. So the only thing you pay is the fare.
I was wondering why I would be even worrying about parking my car and going 17 miles.
Yeah.
But parking can be expensive, and
That's
I didn't
correct.
think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Park and Ride will be free. People can get together, go there, and then go off in different directions with it.
That's correct.
Well, that's a great idea.
Well, it's not new. It's just it's probably new for Tampa.
Well, you know what? If you don't have it, it's new.
Okay.
We need a lot of things here in Tampa. I really am a big proponent of rapid transit on rail. Any chance of us looking seriously at light rail from your standpoint?
That would depend upon our board of directors and the Board of County Commissioners. And in fact, the Board of County Commissioners has a major meeting scheduled later this week where some of the stakeholders are going to meet and start working toward a process to make a determination what type of transportation is needed and then what type of mode it would be. And they anticipate it'll probably take 6 or 8 months to work through that. And I think that's an excellent way of doing it. Just saying that we want this mode or that mode is to determine what is the most cost-effective mode that's needed and where it needs to go.
While we were talking before we came on the air about the cost of gasoline. The cost of gasoline, ladies and gentlemen, is artificially low in the United States. I have to go to Calgary here in not too long, and it's going to cost me as much per liter as it costs per gallon to cross the border. And that doesn't consider European countries and the rest of them where they're paying a real cost for gasoline and our roads are deteriorating. We've got to have a rapid transit system, or at least a good solid transit system. If we don't, we're in trouble because this gasoline cannot stay at $3.35 a gallon.
That's correct. We've been diligently working forward trying to come up with short-term, mid-term, and long-term visions of where we need to be.
What kind of long-term visions are we looking at? Well, let's start with short-term.
Okay, short-term is very basic. We're implementing the North-South Metro Rapid. We are in our 30% design for the East-West Metro Rapid. In fact, in our transit development plan filed with the Florida Department of Transportation, we have 5 that are mapped out. So that there would be 2 going north-south. One is laid out to go from downtown to Tampa International Airport. One goes from downtown over to Bradenton, just all over the place. So this is that would be basically a short to perhaps midterm. Very short term is, as far as technology goes, is that we're implementing. We're in the process of implementing our entire fleet over to compressed natural gas. I think that's a real plus for this area.
That's an interesting concept. We've got a lot of natural gas in the United States now with the fracking, which there's a lot of people who don't like that either. But it is a source and it is reasonably clean.
Yeah, and it's American fuel.
And it's American fuel.
Yeah. Also, it's...
What does it cost to refit a bus fleet?
Well, we're
like
not
that?
refitting. What we're doing is, as the buses reaches its life cycle, and then we'll replace with a bus that's equipped with a compressed natural gas engine.
What's the life cycle on a bus?
It depends. A standard, quote, 40-foot transit bus is 12 years or 500,000 miles. And then also if you got a little bit smaller bus, it goes from 12 years to 10 years, 7 years, et cetera. Majority of our buses are 12-year vehicles, and we have a 10-year fleet plan, which is a replacement plan, that as we go through the process, we'll be replacing each, what we call a buy, which is the buses that need to be replaced at a particular year. They will come in with compressed natural gas engines.
Now, did I understand you to say that most of our buses are already there at that 12-year point?
No. Our average fleet age right now is about 6.5 to 7 years.
Okay, so
I'd
we're
say
in pretty
about
good
half
shape.
will be replaced over the next 3 to 4 years.
Where do those buses go? Just out of curiosity. So I'm sure they just don't go to scrap heaps. It'd just be.
No, no, no.
I hope not,
They're
anyway.
auctioned off, and once they're auctioned off, the route generally they go to smaller charter companies that want to run small service. In some cases, they go to other smaller transit properties, and sometimes they go to Mexico.
Really? Well, it's a good thing we're sending something there. Hope we're not bringing them back to full, though.
No. We will have our compressed natural gas station, which is going to be on our property, fully operational in May of next year.
What kind of savings do you expect to see in natural gas over gasoline?
Well,
Or
I'll give you-
diesel, I assume it's diesel.
It's diesel. The basic, the real savings is we'll be able to sign some long-term fuel contracts, whereas now we buy diesel futures, but the most that we can buy is probably about a year out. We can sign long-term contracts. It's a real plus because you know for a long period of time what your fuel costs are going to be. But the real savings is on the maintenance side. On a diesel engine, because you have to have all specialized emissions controls on it these days, you have to basically rebuild that engine or rehab that engine after about 275 to 300,000 miles.
Which is not very far with you.
No, it's not. Whereas on a CNG engine, because it is so much cleaner, it can go almost the life of the bus.
Really?
Yeah. So if you rebuild an engine, you're talking about another $20,000 because you do some other component rebuilds.
Sure.
With the CNG, it'll go pretty much the life of the bus.
So the cost of running it is cheaper or more expensive?
It's
actually?
cheaper.
It's cheaper. And so you
The
end
fuel's
up,
cheaper and the maintenance is
the
cheaper.
maintenance is cheaper. So
And
that's
from the operator side, they know no difference. Whether it's CNG or diesel or gasoline.
All right, now we're talking money.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the money that funds you and the realism of transit ever being something that's paid for fully by the people that ride it. Come on, people. The people that drive cars don't fully pay for the roads either. So how does it work out for you with your fare box versus what you have to get together in order to run the operation?
Well, from a budget perspective, and in most transit systems, now it varies a little bit from across the nation, but in most transit systems, our fare box recovery is 20%. What that means is
How are we doing on that?
we're at 22% right now.
We're doing a little better.
Yeah, a little bit better. And what that means is for every dollar that we spend when we turn the wheel and we move that vehicle, the fare recovery only pays 21 cents on the dollar. And so the funding for the remainder has to come from other sources. And those sources are, in Hillsborough County, it's ad valorem, or property tax. And by charter, we're at 0.5. So we receive about, this coming year, we think we'll receive about $28 million. The fare box recovery is about $25 to $28 million. And then we use federal dollars to make up the difference, which totals out to our operating costs will be $62 million this coming year, this coming fiscal year.
So you had to pick up about $20 million from the feds.
It's about a third, a third, and a third. So
Well,
1/3 from fare box, 1/3 from property tax, and 1/3 from the federal government.
Since you're running lean and this sort of thing, are we looking at later on, down the line, higher expenses?
We're financially stable for the next 5 years. So based upon of course, we have to have a balanced budget every year. So we're balanced for the next 5 years.
Which is 2 or 3 years past when your contract runs, right? And your wife says, you're crazy, don't sign another one?
Well, she didn't quite say that, but she's pretty close to it. Yeah, we're financially sustainable for the next 5 years. I don't want to say the negative side is, but the assumption is that there's limited growth. So if we want to put more service out on the street, which requires more buses or whatever else, then there'd have to be additional revenue sources coming in.
The good thing, though, is the more people that ride, it doesn't cost you any more. If a bus only has 20 people on it versus 30, those extra 30 are helpful to you.
That's correct. Your operating cost remains the same, and the more revenue that comes in, the better we will be. So the more and that's a measurement of our, what's called a key performance indicators, our ridership. And our ridership, which is pretty phenomenal. I mean, Pinellas is having the same success. Is when I first came here in '08, the ridership was about 9 million a year, and we anticipate we'll be at probably 14.5 million trips this year. That's quite a bit. That's a large growth for that period of time, and we're using the same equipment, or the same number of equipment. We have newer equipment in, but so we had about 220, 215 buses in '08. We have about 200 now.
Well, that's pretty good if you're not having to put a lot of extra people out there and you're still making more transit service.
The next major growth, though, is the Metro Rapid, which we purchased 12 buses. There'll be basically 8 to 10 that will be out there during peak service.
What's a bus cost? I guess we talked about replacing them and everything, but what does an actual bus cost?
About $500,000.
$500,000 for every one of those 40 foot?
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of money per bus. But then I see all these campers going out down the road.
Those are expensive
Some
too.
of those are $1 million.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad after all.
No, it's not. Well, and the plus side is it goes 12 years, so you get your money's worth out of it as long as it's properly maintained, and we properly maintain our vehicles.
Now you're looking into the future. You had a long-term plan.
Yes.
The long-term plan extends to where?
It's a 10-year plan, and it's the Transit Development Plan, which is on file with, and we have to update that every year, is basically the expanding BRTs and possibly...
No, it's a BRT.
That's Metro Rapid, Bus Rapid Transit.
Bus Rapid, okay.
Yeah. And
you folks in an industry, you have all your little
buzzwords.
codes and things.
Yeah. In fact, I was told don't use buzzwords. I said, well, I'm sorry, it's just what I do. So.
I'll stop you.
Okay. The interesting thing with our Bus Rapid Transit system is that you can implement that quicker, and it's less expensive than a rail system. You put it out there, and if the ridership reaches a point that is quite sustainable, then your next step is you replace that BRT with a rail system. That's in the 10-year plan.
I'd love to see that, I really would. When I go to Atlanta, I don't even think about renting a car. I go to Atlanta, I don't look at a car. I get right on the MART, and away I go. I go out to the West Coast, I get on BART, I go into Washington, again, no car, stay out in Crystal River, get a transit in, it's nice, it's clean, it's fast, no traffic, don't have to worry about lights or starting and stopping. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether Tampa is just that much different than North Carolina. I guess there's some good programs up there.
The demographics of Hillsborough is a little unique. The city of Tampa is about 300,000, but the Hillsborough County is about 1.3. So there is a challenge for transit systems, and we provide all this service for 1,100 square miles, whereas a lot of the other systems are there's more density. And that's always been a challenge for transit, is try to serve the less dense population. That's when it really does becomes kind of costly to provide that type of service. And as you said earlier, the more people that you can put on the vehicle, the more cost effective it will be. So if you're going out to some of the outer county areas and 5 or 6 people want a bus, well, 5 or 6 people's fine, but that drives the operating cost up.
As I look at it, I say to myself, and very fortunately, I set my own hours, I do what I need to do when I need to do it, and I'm a late night person. But occasionally I'll have to get up and go somewhere for an early morning meeting. And the traffic's horrible. You get up on Interstate 75, by anywhere near Brandon, and from there to Route 4 and above, it can be just horrible. And I've thought many times it'd be nice to be able to get on a bus and be able to, or an actual rapid transit system. When I say rapid, I'm actually talking about rail. Getting on a rail system out Sun City Center, go zip, end up at the university or something.
That's a good approach. I would support bus rapid transit, managed lanes, And once the ridership in those areas demonstrate that it's cost effective, then you convert over to rail.
I want managed lanes. How does, you couldn't do that on 75, I don't believe. You'd have to take one of those 3
No,
lanes.
you'd have to add a lane.
You have to add a lane. And that, how much a mile is that to add a lane?
Well, there's different ways of doing it. You wouldn't take a lane away, but what they're doing on 275 now, and if you notice, they're doing work in the downtown area of 275 of bringing it together. And so that the next step would be, if that once they complete that, they could actually put an additional lane in on the center side, and that could be a managed lane. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. You can have an HOV lane, which is high occupancy vehicle
Now,
lane.
I like that around Atlanta, going through it, because I don't even go around anymore. I go straight on through on the Hove lane.
There's also, the term is a HOT lane, which stands for high occupancy toll lane. There's different ways of doing it, but managed lane is the terminology that's used, which previously was HOV lane. And it could be limited areas where you get on and get off, or it could have there's different ways of doing the whole process.
Well, Philip Hale, CEO of the HART system, we're going to have to talk about that on another show, because
Okay.
we've just ran out of time.
No problem.
I thank you so much for coming on the show with me. It's been a great pleasure to have you. And I want to thank all of the people down there, especially Sandra, for having gotten you on so quickly for me. I appreciate that. Please carry my thanks back to her.
I will.
I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, you know. We'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. Again, Philip, thank you so much for being with me.
Glad to be here.
Susan, why should I volunteer to do other people's taxes?
You'll help hard-working Hillsborough residents get all the tax credits they're entitled to, and you'll learn a valuable new skill.
What's the time commitment?
You could be a tax preparer, a greeter, or an interpreter at 30 convenient locations in only 2 to 4 hours a week.
Sounds like a great opportunity. Where do I sign up?
UnitedWayTampaBay.org. Volunteer to be a tax preparer. We need you too.